Okay, we are started. Here we go. All right, so for this assignment, go ahead and open up a new file. And this is where we set the size of our document. So first thing I want you to do is change those inches to pixels. And then we can work with this. What did I say, 400? 250. Okay, there it is. Like I said, pretty small image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my brushes here. Yeah, so that's a brush in Photoshop. If you want to create, it is, isn't it? It's gorgeous. Okay, and so you can adjust the size. You can fill that in. Okay, so what I have working so far here is background. Okay, so I've got one layer working here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. And I'll just go layer, new, layer, new fill layer, solid color. I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. And this is where I might choose my color. So I'm going to stick with absolute white, which the hex value, we haven't talked about this, 6 Fs in a row, determines the color. And so I have that color layer on top of the background. And if I wanted to, my move tool here, that's not working right now. I'm going to change my background to its own layer, layer 0. So there it is underneath. I should be able to, it's not working, so I'm going to go ahead and rasterize that layer. In doing so, there we go, I can move that layer around. Do you see that? Okay, so it's covering it up, it's moving it around. I'm just going to do a quick reveal here. So I'm going to go to my window timeline. And on my timeline, create video timeline. Go ahead and click that first. And we're looking at a more traditional timeline, the form down here. And this is the type of timeline we'll be using in Premiere Pro. For Photoshop, I'd like you to work with the actual frames. So if you come down here to the bottom left corner, and click there, you'll see one frame in the beginning of a film here. To add more frames, you click right here. So I'm going to click, and I've created a second frame. Both of those frames are visibly the exact same. So if I were to play this movie, which I'll do right now, I'll just go forever here, and you can see these are 5 seconds, so I'm going to change that to no delay. And you can see my film playing right here. It's just flipping back and forth. But because there's no difference in the two frames, we don't see anything. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start here. And in my second frame, what I'm going to do, and I've got my arrow keys here, I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard, hold the shift key down. I'm just going to pull that out of the way. Okay? And so now if I were to play, it's a flash. Right? So it's just flashing back and forth between the differences between the two frames. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to tween. There's a tween function is right here. If I click, we've done this before, or you'll be doing this in your MP4. I'm going to add, in this case, I'm going to add 10 frames. I'm on the first frame here. It's going to tween to the next frame. So it's going to tween between 1 and 2. And your options up here are next frame or last frame, so you can tween in 2 directions. And since we're starting at number 1, it's the only direction you want to go. So if I click OK, what's going to happen is Photoshop's going to add 10 frames. See that? Now I'm just going to go through each frame one at a time, and you see what happens. What Photoshop has done automatically is bridged between that second frame, which is now frame 12, and the first one, and it does it incrementally. So if I play my film, that reveal looks like a smooth moving idea. Okay, so that's what we'll call a reveal. All right, and I'm going to start at my 12th frame here. So after the reveal, I'm going to add a frame to it. So the frame I add, again, same. And what I'm going to do is, nope, you know what? I am going to do this. I am going to delete these guys, and I'll explain that in a few. We're going to go back here. I'm going to turn my timeline off. Okay? And so I'm going to come back here, and I'm simply going to deal with this area here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw an object, and I'm going to do that here. There's a square. Hold that down, and I'm going to bring in a little ball, so an ellipse tool. If I hold the Shift key down, when I draw, I get a perfect round sphere here. If I don't hold it down, Command Z, then it can be any shape you want it, right? So I'm going to hold the Shift key down now, and it stays uniform. So that's what I'm aiming for here. And there's my ball. Okay. So what I'm going to do with the ball is, now I'm going to open up my timeline again, and we have this. So I'm going to create a second frame. I'm going to pull my ball off screen. So my 2 frames, it's present in neither. It's still there. It's just not visible. So for my first frame, there it is. For my second frame, I'm going to pull it and have it bounce in the grass. And so you see the difference. For my third frame, so I'll create a third frame. I am going to pull it up here. And then for my fourth frame, I'm going to pull it back down here. For the fifth frame, we'll just have it bounce off. Let's see what it looks like before we tween. Okay, so it looks a little chaotic there. So I'm going to do a quick tween in between each of these. Instead of going 10, I'm going to be a little more conservative and go 5. So I'm going 1 to 2, next frame, and there it is landing. So I'm going to tween again, 5 frames forward. There it is off. So tween again, forward. And you can see it down here. There it is, last one. So I'll tween it one more time. And let's see what it looks like. Okay, follow the bouncing ball. Okay, so that's a quick demonstration on how to get things to move. Okay, what I'm going to do now is, after that last frame, I'll create a new frame, and let's see, I'm going to draw. So here's my ball out here. I'm going to draw a new ball here. I'm going to demonstrate an error for you. Okay? See how I just threw a new ball in there? I already had my timeline in place. Now watch what happens. Thanks. Just grab a new seat there, Marky. So notice what happens. I drew it, and I thought I was just creating a layer object here, which I was. But because I had already created my entire timeline here, by simply drawing it here, it shows up on every single one. So the lesson that I want you to take from this is you need to set your layers first before you open up your timeline. That's why I canceled the timeline on the first go-round and went here. So I'm going to pause this, Command Z, and I'm going to delete this timeline. And I have the last frame selected.